Hi, my name is Jan, and I'm the iOS platform lead at STRV, which is coincidentally the same company that CJ works in, CJ being Tomáš, who just presented here. Hi, CJ. When I was planning this presentation, I wanted to do something with SwiftUI, and then I wanted to do some slides and stuff, but that was very boring, so I decided not to. And I had this idea that I could live code an application, because when I was playing with SwiftUI and when we were playing with SwiftUI and STRV, we figured it's actually very fast to do UIs in SwiftUI. So fast that I decided to dare myself to write a remotely complex application in 40 minutes. Wish me luck. So the application that we're going to be building is this. It's called Lamstagram. It's Instagram, but for llamas. Lamstagram has two tabs in the tab view controller down below. One is feed, and one, you guessed it, is your profile with your friends and your posts. Now there's transitions and the stuff scrolls and stuff, and we're gonna try to do this in 40 minutes. This is a very awkward position for coding, so we'll see how it goes. Now, how do we start? Well, we start with an empty SwiftUI project. This has been created from the template that Xcode provides for you, and it's a hello world, right? So we're almost done by now. Now, in the preview here in the guide, you can see that first we need to start with the tab bar, of course. So how do we do tab bars? Well, we could do the UI tab bar controller and stuff, but we won't. First, what we're going to do is, in my content view, which is the main view of the app that was created for me by Xcode, thank you Xcode, I'm going to create a new file next to it. I'm going to use the SwiftUI view template, and I'm going to call it main view, because why not? Now here, I'm just going to add some text. I need to switch to my Czech keyboard, otherwise this is going to be very messy. Yes, people make fun of me. OK, and now I'm going to instantiate this main view here, right? I'm going to run the app. I'm not going to be using the previews just yet, but later. And we have my view displayed. So I've just created a new view. Wow, so fast compared to UIKit. Now in the main view, I'm going to need to create my tab bar because there's nothing right now. Well, how do we do that? We do that very simple way. We create the tab view. Now in the tab view, I need some content, right? Because otherwise it's going to complain. So I'm just going to add one view that is a text and one view that is a text again, which will be my feed and my profile. Like this. I'm going to build this, and voila, I have my tab bar control. Now, the thing is, I can click on this, but there's no buttons, no tab bar items. So let's add them. I'm going to go and create a tab item here. I'm going to call it, let's say, a feed. Why not? But the tab item also accepts an image. So I can also add an image together with the text. And I can use the SF font icon, let's say a house. Now I can copy this whole thing to the profile. And let's say we can do a person here and profile. I can build this. And voila, we have a tab bar. So fast. I can click through this, and it works quite nicely. Now, these things are blue. I don't want that to be blue, because the designer said they should be black. So let's just set an accent color to black and build this whole thing again, which is surprisingly fast. And here we have a black tab bar. How much time would this take in UIKit? A lot. Now this was quite fast. Now, of course, this is a far cry from my design, right? So I need to start building the feed view bit by bit. Now, right now, what I have in my feed is this text, right? So it's just a centered text view. What I need to do is, first, I need to put it into a navigation controller, navigation view, so that I can have this juicy, nice little title, well, actually large title. And then I need to start building the table view, or whatever we call it in SwiftUI. So let's do that. Well, it probably isn't a good idea to do it in the main view, because then there would be a lot of code. So what we can do is, we can create our own cool custom view called a feed view. Now, I need to create that. So I'm going to go and create the feed view here, again from the template. Beautiful. Now here, I'm going to say feed again, right? And if I build this, it should probably work quite nicely still. The same thing should appear. Cool. So now, what I need to do is I need to set the navigation bar title. And, well, that's actually pretty easy. I just call the navigation bar title modifier on the text. And if I run it, nothing happens. Well, nothing happens because I haven't added the navigation view yet. So I need to embed my component in the navigation view. Thank you, Xcode. Like this. And I can actually do the same thing for the profile. Like this. And just indent this. And now when I run my application, I actually have a tab view together with the navigation view. So easy, so fast. And this was pushed to the navigation view by default because that's the content that I provided to it in the closure. Now I need to start building the feed view. The feed view here is some kind of a table view, some kind of a list of stuff. One piece of the stuff is quite complicated, so we're going to separate it to a component, but I can start building the list itself. The problem though is I need some data here, and of course I have prepared some mock data here because I'm not going to be doing any requests to any API because that would take a lot of time, but we can simulate that we have some API. Now to provide data to a view, we have a couple of ways to do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something called a store that is going to be an observable object that is going to be observed by my view. And whenever the data changes, it will update the view. So let me go to my main view and just pass something to this. Probably I will need something like this, some user to know for whom the feed should be displayed. So for the data, I'm going to go and create a store here. I'm going to call it a feed store. Like this. Well, not like this. Well, that's okay. Feed store. Thank you, Xcode. Now, I'm going to call this a final class called feed store, and it's going to be an observable object. Now, this class is going to have one published property called user. It's going to be of type user, and it's going to have another published property called posts, which is going to be an array of post. This all I have prepared beforehand because we don't want to do this, but it's just a simple codable struct, basically. Now, here I'm going to add some initializer that will take a user as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the user to the user, and then I'm going to set my posts to the post of the user. Or if there's nothing, I'm just going to display all of them for the sake of the presentation. Right? Here it's complaining about a rogue S, so I'm going to destroy it. But now I have a store that's possible to be observed by a SwiftUI view, so I can connect it here. Now, I will probably connect it in this feed view. So I'm just going to go observed object var feed store is some feed store. Well, not that. Also happens like it always gives me like the worst possible thing that I want to use. Now I'm going to override an init here so that I can pass a user to my view, and when the user is passed, I'm going to initialize the feed store with something real, something that will get me the data. So I'm just going to pass the user there. So now I'm actually initializing the store that my view will be using for getting the data. Now I'm going to pass something to the previews, otherwise it's going to complain. So I'm just going to take the mock data and the users array. And first, mock data is great for SwiftUI because you have a lot of these previews that you have to fill in, otherwise it's going to complain. And now it's going to complain here in the main view that I don't have a user. So I need to pass some user here, as I mentioned before, but I have no user. So I could be a pig and I could just do this, but that would not be a nice simulation. So let's create another store, and let's call it an authenticated user store. Or, for example, authenticated store. Like this. Now, I'm going to again make it a final class. Let's call it authenticated store. It's going to be observable object again, and it's going to have one published property that is going to be the user, right? Now, I'm going to create an init because it's not synthesized for classes, and I'm just going to, for the sake of presentation, say that the user is some user from my mock data. But it kind of simulates what it would look like in your application. There would be, for example, an API call here, which would then set the user, and then the user would be propagated to the view, but we don't do any network calls right now. So let's focus on the UI. So I have my authenticated user store. That is something that is probably needed for the whole application. So I'm not going to inject it as to the feed view using the observed object and a property wrapper. But instead, I'm going to go to my scene delegate here, where my content view is being created. And I'm going to say, environment object is my authenticated store. Now, when I do this, all the views will automatically get dependency injection functionality for the type that I have just registered here. So I can go to my main view and say, yo, there's an environment object prepared for you that is of type authenticated store. If you find it, please don't crash. If you don't find it, crash vigorously, and it will. And also, I did some PHP last week, so I'm forgetting vars. So here's user, and I can actually get it now from my user. Well, from the instance. This also kind of drives me mad. It always gives me like the wrong capitalization at the beginning. So if I run this, now everything should still be working quite fine. Nothing should be crashing. The UI should be the same. Beautiful. But now, since I have injected my user to my feed, and the feed has a store with all the feed data, with all the posts, with all the information about the user, what I can now do is I can add a scroll view here, which is going to be vertical scroll view, because I want to scroll vertically. So much easier than in UIKit. And here, I can just do for each over my feed store dot posts. Now this will get one post in the closure, and I can, for example, display an image of the post. I cheated, it's all in assets, don't judge me. Now this should build, and when I see my feed, I have a scrollable list of llamas, which is always good. Now we need to do this a little better, because the designers are screaming right now. It doesn't look like the design, so I will fix that. Now, again, this is a lot of code, so I probably need to separate this somewhere. Let's create a view called post view, like this, and pass a post to it. So let's say post is post. Now I need to create my post view, so I'm just going to create a group here called feed. I'm going to transfer the feed to it. I'm going to create a new file called post view, based on the template again. Now this is all going to work just fine. I just need to add the property. So let post is post. Now this is going to scream, because I need to provide it in the previews as well. So let's do mockdata.post.first. Yay. And let's display the canvas here. Oh my god. That's why I didn't want to have so big font, because I still need some place here. Now let's wait 17 minutes for it to build. What is going on? Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to build the view quite nicely. And we want to have basically a rectangular thing like this that is actually one big VStack. In the VStack, there's an H-stack on top that has an image and a VStack. Then there's an image, and then there's an H-stack of the buttons. That's how you do SwiftUI views. It's very simple. So let's do that. Let's start with a VStack, like this. Now, it's complaining already, so I'm just going to give it some stuff. For example, the image. Beautiful. What I'm going to also do is I'm just going to set a frame on the post view to constrain it to something nice so that it previews nicely like this. Okay, so this image is not great yet. Let's make it resizable because it's too big. Let's clip its shape like this, thank you, to a circle. Do that in UIKit so easily. And what I'm going to do is its aspect ratio is going to be to fill, well, the content mode. Now, I need to set some frame on it. So let's say the width is 40, because why not? And the height is 40 as well. Beautiful. You can't see it, but it's great. Now, I'm going to add a VStack here. the vstack should contain the nickname and the name of the user. So now I'm going to add a text here, which will say post.user.nickname. And I'm going to say that the font weight is semi-bold, because it should be bigger and bolder. And then I'm just going to say post.user.name here. Oh my god, that looks great. But I made a mistake. This should be an hstack. Much better. Now, this is not aligned correctly, right? So if you go here, it should be aligned to the left. So let's just say the hstack is aligned to the leading edge, like this. Please work. Nope. What? Okay, no, I made a mistake. So, wrong. This is correct, but there needs to be one vstack above it, like this. Because I need to put something below the hstack. So here, if I set the alignment to leading, it's going to work just lovelily. At some point, once it re-renders, it eventually will. So let's continue. So here, I'm going to add an image, which will be the post image, like this. Beautiful. It looks pretty great. Now below that, what I want to do is I want to add some hstack, but first, let's again make the image resizable so that it fits everything. Let's say that the aspect ratio will fill again. Lovely. And I quite like this. Now below, I'm going to add the hstack. The hstack is going to contain some images. So let's add an image, again with the system font, that it will be a heart, like this. Perfect. It's too small, so let's set the font size to, I don't know, 20, like this. And it's much bigger. Well, not much, but a little bit. Let's add more. For example, that I know that there should be a message. There should also be a paper plane image. And there should also be a bookmark. Lovely. I just want to push the bookmark all the way to the right, so I can do that. Nice. This looks pretty great. I love it. I love it. Now, there's some problem with the alignment, but we can solve that later. I don't know why it's doing that.
Should be on the other stack.
On which one? Oh, yes! Oh my god. You know, live coding is stressful. Like this. Oh my god, it works. But I also need to align this too. This works. Perfect. So now, if I go to my feed view, oh dear lord, it works. It's beautiful. Although it misses some padding, so let's add padding. Well, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to set the spacing of this vstack to 0 to kind of smoosh everything together. And I'm just going to add padding here, like this. Beautiful. And I'm also going to add padding on the hstack, because why not? This looks so good. Now if I go to my feed view, we got this. So if I build the app, and I wait, we have a beautiful scrollable feed view in like 15 minutes, or maybe 10. Try to do that in UIKit so fast. You won't. Now, since we are already so much ahead, we can go and work on the profile, right? So the profile is set right now. We're going to make it much nicer. So if we look at the design, it basically consists of 3 main parts. The first part here is the header. So there's some image, some information, and some description. Then there's this list of friends that should scroll horizontally. And there's this collection view. Collection view. There's no collection view in SwiftUI. But I'm going to hack around it, I guess. So let's do this. In my profile view, what I need to do is I need to create the profile view first, actually. So let's do that. I'm just going to create a group here called profile. And I'm going to say there's a new file here called a profile view, again from the template. Profile view. Nice. Now here, we'll definitely need some user. So I'm just going to say, hey, give me user. This will start to complain. So I'm just going to say, mock data, give me the first user because I don't care. Now, if I go to my main view and instantiate this thing, it should work. So let's say profile view. Perfect. And the user will be my authenticated user from the store. Now here in the feed view, I change my mind. I'm just going to pass nil to display all the images on the default view, on the default feed. Now if I run this, everything should still work. Nothing should be crashing. We should be just fine and showing hello world. Perfect. So in my profile view, I need to create these 3 sections, right? The first section will be the header. So let's again create a file, SwiftUI view. Let's call it the profile header view. I'm making way less typos than I expected. Let's pass a user here as well. And let's do the same here. So user is mogdata.users.first. I'm just going to copy this because I hate typing it. And let's say this is the header, right? I'm going to create one more file called the friends view. So profile, friends view. Perfect. Now I'm going to add the user again as a property. Perfect. And I'm just going to pass the user here in the preview as well. And then one last view. This is the last view we'll create today, the file. I'm going to say profile post view. Perfect. Excellent. So let's just create the user here as well, pass it in the preview, and we're basically done. Now I can go to my profile view, and I can just say, yo, create this header view. You see the double typing? That's the perfect keyboard. I swear. I swear. Let's also add the friends view here, like this. And let's also add the post view and pass the user into it. Now if I build this, it should build, but I forgot to add the scroll view. Because this whole thing should scroll vertically, and also with the opaque return type, I also need to return just one type, otherwise it's not going to work. Opaque return type, the sum thing, it's great. So now I go to profile, it shows this. Perfect. Now I need to set the title, right? So I'm just going to set the navigation bar title, and I'm going to set it to, let's say, something a little different. Let's use this title display mode. So I'm going to go and say this is the user.name, and the display mode is going to be .inline. I'm going to build this, and it's going to terribly fail. Now, it says ambiguous reference to member navigation, blah, 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 but it doesn't really tell me what's the problem. Well, the problem is that contrary to the other initializer for navigation bar title, I actually have to wrap this in text for some reason. Now it should work. So if I go to my simulator, oh my God, so beautiful. What we can now do is format this, because I hate it, and then we can start building the profile header view. So in the profile header view, what we have is an image, which will be in a V stack, but also in an H stack. And there's going to be another H stack here with 3 V stacks. And then there's going to be a text thing here. So let's do that. Let's create a V stack. And we can use the power of previews as well. Resume. About this time is when it starts failing for me usually. So, well, let's add an image. User.imageName. Perfect. Try again. OK. Ha! Perfect. OK. Let's make this image resizable, because all the images must be resizable. Oh, that's a big llama. Let's also set the content mode, aspect ratio with the content mode to fit. Much better. Let's clip its shape to a circle. Nice. Let's set its width and height. Let's say width is 80. Beautiful. And I can just set the aspect ratio to 1. Nice. Let's wrap this image in an H stack, like this. Whoop. And let's add another H stack next to the image on the right side. Now here, I'm going to have a V stack that is going to contain 2 text components. The first one is going to be some number. So let's say user.number of posts. And then let's say posts. Wow, this works. Nice. Let's also set this to font weight of semi-bold, because why not? Now I'm going to copy this. There's some rule that if you copy it more than 3 times, it's bad. So this is 3 times, it's good. Then I'm going to add following, so following here, and followers, like this. Now the designer is screaming, but followers should be first. Okay, so I'm just going to refactor it. So much easier. Let's try it in the UI kit. Very good. I'm just going to add a spacer here to randomly push this all the way to the side. But I'm going to add one spacer here as well to push it back to the center. Oh my god, so nice. Well, and then I'm just going to add my text with the description of the user, like this. Perfect. Now, this will randomly break on long text for some reason, which I am not sure what the explanation is, but probably there's a good explanation. So I have to do this. I have to do fixed size of horizontal false and vertical true. And I also need to set the frame to be of max width of infinity and alignment of leading. Why? I have not yet discovered, but probably there's a good reason. Otherwise it breaks. Probably some explanation is there. We can talk about that later, but I don't know the answer yet. Now I will build this thing, and voila, here is my profile thingy. Now I don't like this because there should be some padding and stuff. So let's just add a padding here, like this. Perfect. I'm going to run it. I could use the previews, but whatever. And it looks perfect. Like this is what our designers envisioned, and they love this product already. We will be in the market soon. Now, in the friends view, I need to create a scroll view that scrolls horizontally. So I'm going to add a scroll view that actually scrolls horizontally. And I'm going to say that there shouldn't be indicators because I don't like indicators. Now I'm going to add HStack. And in this HStack, we will iterate over the friends of my user, which will get a friend in a closure. And I'm going to display an image of the friend. You see how it broke now, the IntelliSense? So now this looks perfect. I think we shall leave this, but let's not. Let's also add a text here. In the text, I will display the name of the user, like this. I'm going to make it uppercased because, you know, why not? Then this will not work, so I'm going to add a VStack. Perfect, like this. Let's wait for this to wake up. Try again, try again, try again, try again. I probably need a self. Good, this works. Also, I'm running out of power, which makes it a lot more fun. Well, why not? I think we can make it on 45, probably. Let's see. Okay, I'll hurry up. So let's set a frame of this to width of 75, because that's a nice number, and height of 75 too. Pretty good. Let's make the image resizable. Aha, much better. Let's say that the aspect ratio and the content mode is fit. Wow. And let's clip its shape to a circle because we love circles. Oh, nice. Let's set the text font to a caption because it's nicely sized, but this will break everything. So let's also set the line limit to 1. This is quite nice. So let's build this. And now you will see that we have a beautiful header and a beautiful list of friends that scrolls horizontally. How cool is that? Now let's add the collection, the grid. So in this grid, what I need to do is I just need to use a hosting view controller and a UI collection view, which would take a lot of time, so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a VStack of HStacks of images, because that sounds great. So I'm going to iterate in this VStack over my user posts.chunked, which is a function that I have conveniently prepared before, which basically splits the array to arrays of 3. Now, I need the chunk here. And for each of these chunks, I'm going to create an HStack, right? And then I'm going to iterate again over the chunks items, which is the 3 posts that I have just created. It's an abomination, but it works. And I'm going to render an image for each one of them. Let's call this a post. And I'm going to say just post.imageName. Let's resume and hope it doesn't crash. It's look perfect. I love it. So let's make this image resizable, because all the images should be resizable, and it looks quite nice. But there's too big of spacing, so I'm just going to say a spacing is 1, and the spacing of this H stack is also 1, which is going to make it much nicer. Love it. Let's set the aspect ratio again to fit. Much nicer. But I don't want this image down there to be so big, so I need to, well, change it somehow. Well, one way of doing it is to go and set a frame on it, like this, and say the width is 100, for example. And this will do this. It will look quite nice. Now, I need to put this to the left, right? So I need to go on this H stack and say completely, conveniently, that your max width is going to be infinity, because why not? And you're going to be aligned to the leading edge. This looks nice. But 100 is an arbitrary value, and if you put this through code review, someone will hate you. So let's not do that. Let's compute this, this value. Now, I have 3 images, and there should be 3 images. So I need to see how big the screen is, get 1/3 of it, and then set the width to that. So how do we do that? Well, I will tell you later. Now first, I'm going to say there's some width property, which is magically a CG float. And I'm going to set that the width is my width for now. I'm just going to pass the width here. Nice synthesized initializers for structs. I love it. And I'm going to say 100, because why not? Now, right now, I can pass the width to my view. What I can go now, and in the profile view, I can say, hey, you're going to be wrapped in a geometry reader. Geometry reader is a thing that reads the properties of the layout of the space available for your view and gives you information about it. So I'm just going to say geometry in, and here in my profile post view, I can just say geometry, width is geometry, not this, geometry, thank you, dot size, dot width. It's very helpful, you see? Like it helps. Okay, perfect. Now if I resume this, it will crash for some reason. Oh, I forgot my selves. Never forget your selves. Now, I added my selves, but still it's probably gonna crash or look weird. This doesn't look anything like the design, says the designer. Well, I can fix that, because in my profile post view, I need to divide this by 3. Right, this is too small. Let's say 400. Perfect. Now if I run this application, we will have our collection view grid that displays our posts. And it's perfect, and it's close, and I love it. So we almost have this done, right? But now the product manager says, but there's no navigation in the app, it just displays data. But we can fix that quite easily in SwiftUI. So let's go to our post view, and let's add a random property here called var model is displayed. And it's going to be false by default. But we want this to be tied to our UI, so I'm just going to say it's also wrapped in a state property wrapper. Now what I can do is, when the user taps on the image, it will display a model with the full-sized llama, just as it was envisioned by the designer in the design. So I can just go and say, wow, this is going to be a button too, right? And in its button's closure, I'm going to say the model is displayed is now true, because, well, we want to display this when the button is clicked. So I'm just going to do that. You go away. And yeah, well, let's have a button for now as a first step. Now I'm going to build the application, and everything should work quite nicely, except all the images are black now. For some reason, you need to say, oh, if you have an image in the button style is a plain button style. Don't ask me why, but it's so. So if I build this now, it should look quite nice. Oh, perfect. Great. So now what I can do is I can add a sheet modifier on my button, but you could actually add it to anything. And it has one parameter called isPresented, and I'm just going to bind this to the model is displayed property. And in the closure, I'm just going to show the image because that's the contents of the model. So I'm just going to say post.imageName like this. Yeah, I thought I need the self. OK, we have self. And now, when I press the button, it shows a model. So easy. Now, this is ugly, so let's fix that. Let's make the image, can you guess? Resizable, exactly. Let's make the image resizable because that helps. Let's set the aspect ratio to fill. And let's run it. Perfect. Perfect. OK, it's great. But there's a white line down below, says the designer. Well, we can fix that. Let's just make it ignore the safe area at the bottom. And now I'm going to build this application, click the button, and it looks perfect. Perfect. Now, the product manager says, but when I click on the title here, I want to get to the profile of the user. Well, we can do that in about 3 lines of code. Let's do that. So here, I have my H tag, which is the title, right? The header of the post. So I can just go and embed it in a navigation link. The navigation link has one parameter called destination. And the destination is literally just you initializing the view where you want to go. So I'm just going to go and say profile view, user is post.user, like this. And then I'm going to add the contents to this navigation link, like this. I run the app, wait for it. And I click, oh my god, it's black again. OK, so I'm just going to say the button style is a plain button style, because why not? Perfect. Very intuitive. But, you know, it has quirks. What? It's not working yet. Oh, yeah, because I didn't set it on the navigation link. I set it wrongly. You have to set it precisely on the navigation link or somewhere above. So now, perfect. I click, and I get to the pushed view controller. So easy. So easy. But now the product manager says, but I want this to be working also on the friends views. Well, I can just go, copy-paste this into my profile friends view, and just annotate this whole VStack with it, for example, like this, right? It's exactly the same thing, exactly the same destination, so why not? Let's also set the button style. OK, this should be the friend. Let's also set the button style to plain button style because, you know, we have to do that. And now, in about 15 seconds, I have created the segue from the profile. And it works. And it's quite lovely. But the product manager says, but when I click on this, I also want to get to the feet of the user. Well, there's no problem with that. So let's just go and copy this navigation link again. But now let's go to the profile post view. And let's wrap each of the images with this again as well. But instead of a profile view, we're going to instantiate a feed view, which coincidentally also takes a user, which is going to be the post.user. Let's also say that the button style is plain. And we're good. I will run this application. And everything will look quite nice. So I go there, and I'm in the feed view. I click here. I get the preview. Everything works quite nicely. And yeah, it's a nice llama. So I have just finished in exactly 40 minutes. I can do one more thing if you want to see it. But I can also let you go and get some pizza or something. Say yay for more. We're good? I will also add the functionality of liking. Let's do that. So here in my post view, I have this heart. And the product manager says, when I click on the heart, it doesn't go black. It doesn't heart anything. So let's add that. Let's first create some plumbing for it, because we need that. We'll first need some place to store the state of the application in regards to the likes, right? So I'm just going to go and create another store. It's going to be, let's say, liked posts store. Liked posts store, like this. It's again going to be a final class. Liked posts store. And it's going to be observable object again. Perfect. And it's going to have one published property, which is going to be post IDs. I did PHP last week, so I can do this. Everything is allowed in PHP. And again, I forgot the var. Like, it happens. So now, this is going to be an empty array. Perfect, works. Now I can add some functionality to the store that will give me a way to figure out whether a post is liked and also like it or unlike it. So I'm going to create a new function called isLiked. This is just your typical normal Swift, right? So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to pass the post as a parameter here. I'm just going to go return post IDs, IDs I say, contains the post.id. We don't have to write returns anymore. It's great. Now I'm going to create one more function called toggle. And it's going to take a post as well. And it's going to do a little more complicated thing. So we're going to figure out whether the post is already liked or not. Right? Like this. So now this needs to return. So if the post is liked, I need to remove it from the array. Right? So I need to do post IDs equals post IDs dot filter, and I'm just gonna say 0 is not equal to my post ID, right? And then here, when it's not liked, I'm just gonna say post IDs dot append the post.id. Now this is my plumbing for the whole store, and it's nice because you can see that there's functions on the store that you can use quite nicely. Now I need to inject this somehow to all the views that can use this, and what better place than the scene delegate? So I just add another environment object, and probably you wouldn't do it this way, like this particular way. You would have some API and some better architecture, but for the sake of this 40-minute presentation, this is good enough. Let's also add the liked post store here, and now we can go into the post view and just say, yo, there's an environment object waiting for you somewhere, which is called liked post store, and it's of type liked post store. Now if I run this, nothing should crash, hopefully. Please don't crash. Perfect. So I'm going to add one more property, computed property, called isLiked on the post view, and I'm just going to say it's a Boolean, and I'm going to just return liked post store, the instance, is liked my post. And now I can go into my image and I can just say, well, if self is liked, I actually don't need a self, I think here. If it's liked, I will just display heart.fill, which is a full black heart. Or if it's not liked, I will create an empty heart. Now let's do that. And here it works. But now when I click on it, nothing happens, right? So I need to have a button that will figure this out. So I'm just going to do a button here, which will say toggle, or toggle like. And I'm just going to wrap the image in it, like this. Now I need to create a function called toggle like, of course. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to say liked post store dot toggle my post. And I'm going to build the application. And if I click on the heart now, it becomes black. So lovely. But since this is injected to all the views in the hierarchy from the scene delegate, if I go here to the profile, and for example, I get to this feed, it's already still liked because the data is shared, because the store is injected to everything. And yeah, basically in 45 minutes, we have built an application with a tab view, with 2 navigation views, with like functionality, with fairly complicated UI on the feed and the profile, with 3 or 4, I think, navigation segues and stuff. And that, in my book, is quite fast. So I hope you will use SwiftUI. This is prepared in a way that everything works. There's quirks, right? So we have been doing at STRV a SwiftUI app, and it actually is done and it works, fully SwiftUI app. But there's quirks that take you a little time to figure out. But once you have played with it for a month or 2, it's actually really this fast. And when I do some UI prototyping right now myself, I always use SwiftUI because it's just so fast. So I hope you enjoyed this talk, and thank you.